The grand hall of the Thrillian Palace was unlike anything the humans had ever seen. Its walls shimmered with soft blue light, as though the very stones were alive. Tall pillars reached into the high ceiling, carved with symbols of ancient battles and victories. The floor was polished to a mirror-like shine, reflecting the banners of both Earth and the Thrillians. It was a place built to show power, history, and pride. Ethan Hale stood among the human delegation, his posture firm, his hand resting lightly on the weapon at his side. He was not a diplomat nor a politician. He was only a guard, a simple soldier chosen to keep watch during Earth's first face-to-face meeting with the Thrillian Queen. For him, this was supposed to be a quiet day. He did not expect to be noticed. The leaders of Earth stood at the center of the hall, waiting for the Queen. Scientists, translators, and advisors surrounded them, speaking in low voices. The air was heavy with tension, as if the walls themselves were holding their breath. Everyone knew that this meeting could shape the future of both civilizations. Ethan's eyes scanned the alien guards who lined the room. The Thrillians were tall, their skin faintly silver, their eyes glowing faintly gold in the dim light. Their armor was sleek, almost alive, shifting slightly as they breathed. They looked powerful, but disciplined. Not a single one of them moved out of line. A sudden sound echoed through the chamber, the deep boom of ceremonial drums. The massive golden doors at the far end slowly opened. A beam of light poured into the hall, and with it came silence. Every human fell still. Every alien guard straightened. The Queen was arriving. Ethan had heard stories about Queen Saradia. Some called her the most powerful ruler in the galaxy. Others whispered of her cold, unshakable will. She was a leader who had survived wars, betrayals, and rebellions to Earth. She was both a mystery and a possible ally. The Queen entered, walking slowly down the long carpet of silver and gold. Her robes glowed faintly, woven with threads of light. A crown rested on her head, delicate but commanding, shaped like wings reaching upward. Her presence was overwhelming, calm yet filled with authority. Even her guards bowed as she passed. But then, something happened that no one expected. Halfway down the hall, Queen Saradia's steps faltered. She stopped, her gaze fixed not on the human leaders, not on the banners, not on the diplomats. Her golden eyes locked on someone standing quietly near the edge of the human delegation, on Ethan. He froze, unsure why the Queen was staring at him. For a moment, he thought perhaps he had broken some unspoken rule. Maybe standing too tall. Maybe making too much eye contact. His training told him to stay calm, but his heart raced. The Queen's expression shifted. Her eyes widened slightly, her lips parted as though she had seen a ghost. The hall, already silent, now felt heavy with confusion. Everyone watched, not understanding. Saradia whispered something in her native tongue, so soft that only her closest guards heard it, yet her voice carried across the room through the translators. The words made no sense to the humans at first. He looks like him. The whisper spread quickly. Advisors turned to one another in shock. Who was him? Why would the Queen lose her composure now, at such an important moment? The Queen's chief advisor stepped forward quickly, speaking in a firm voice. Your Majesty, the delegation awaits your greeting. Saradia blinked, as if waking from a dream. She tore her gaze from Ethan, straightened her shoulders, and walked forward again. Her regal mask returned, but there was a shadow in her eyes now. Something unsettled. The human leaders bowed politely as she approached, and the formal greetings began. Words were exchanged about peace, trade, and cooperation. Every sentence was careful, weighed, and measured. But Ethan noticed something strange. Even as the Queen spoke to the diplomats, her gaze flickered toward him again and again, like a thread pulling her attention away from everything else. He felt exposed, as though the entire galaxy had turned its eyes on him, yet he was only a soldier. He had no titles, no importance, nothing that should matter to an alien ruler. Why, then, did she look at him as if he carried the weight of her past? Ethan kept his face still, hiding his unease. Years of training taught him not to show weakness, even when confused. But inside, questions spun in his mind. Had he done something wrong? Did he unknowingly offend her? Or was this some kind of alien custom he did not understand? The ceremony ended after an hour of speeches and formalities. The queen gave her final blessing. Her voice calmed once more. The human delegation bowed and promised to continue talks the next day. When the queen finally left the hall, her advisors whispered urgently to her. Their voices filled with worry. She did not answer. Her eyes, however, lingered one last time on Ethan before the great doors closed behind her. The humans began to leave the chamber, relieved the meeting had not ended in disaster. But whispers moved among them too. Many had noticed the queen's strange reaction. Some believed it was a sign of weakness, others feared it was an omen. Ethan walked silently beside the diplomats, his thoughts heavy. He had not spoken a single word, yet somehow he had become part of something far greater than he understood. Later, in the quiet of the human quarters, one of the translators approached him. The man lowered his voice, his eyes sharp with curiosity. Do you know what she said? He asked. Ethan nodded slowly. I heard. She said you look like him. Do you have any idea what that means? Ethan shook his head. No, I've never even met her before. The translator studied him for a moment, then sighed. Be careful, Ethan. When a queen remembers someone, it is rarely a small thing. Ethan leaned back against the wall, his mind racing. He wanted to believe this was nothing, just a strange coincidence, maybe a misunderstanding. But deep inside, he felt something he could not explain. The way she looked at him shocked, almost afraid, was not the gaze of a stranger. It was the gaze of someone who had seen a ghost. And somehow, Ethan knew this was only the beginning. The palace of the Thrillians was never silent, even in the still hours of the night. When torches dimmed and the golden halls grew dark, there were always footsteps, voices, and the soft hum of alien machines hidden within the walls. But in Queen Sarathia's private chambers, silence ruled. She sat alone beside a wide window that opened into the star-filled sky. The stars shimmered like jewels scattered across black silk. Her golden eyes reflected their light, but her thoughts were far away, all evening. Her advisors had urged her to ignore the guard. They said it was nothing. They said humans were many, and resemblances could happen by chance. Do not let a soldier distract you, they told her. The fate of 2 empires is in your hands. But their words could not erase what she had seen, that human Ethan Hale. As her aides had quietly learned, looked too much like him. The lines of his face, the shape of his eyes, even the quiet way he stood. It was as if time had turned back and delivered a ghost to her throne room. Her chest tightened as old memories surfaced. She had not thought of Valor in years, but now every image returned with painful clarity. Prince Valor of the Thrillian Dominion, her husband, once a man of charm, intelligence, and ambition. He had stood by her side when she first claimed the throne, promising loyalty, whispering words of devotion in the quiet of their palace nights. For a time, she believed him. She believed he would be her greatest ally. But ambition is a dangerous fire. When the Civil War began, when rival houses challenged her right to rule, she expected Valor to defend her without question. Instead, he betrayed her. He chose his own path, struck secret deals with her enemies, and nearly delivered the empire into ruin. The betrayal burned her more deeply than any wound, not only as a ruler, but as a woman who had trusted him when his schemes were discovered. Saratia gave the order herself. Valor was exiled, cast out of the empire, stripped of his name and power. His fate beyond the stars was unknown. Some said he perished, others believed he wandered to forgotten worlds. Saratia told herself she no longer cared. He was gone. The past was finished, until today. Her hands trembled slightly as she touched her crown. Could it be chance? Could it be illusion? Or could Valor's blood have reached the humans somehow? A sharp knock at the door broke her thoughts. One of her closest advisors entered quietly, a tall woman with silver markings across her cheeks. Your Majesty, the advisor said softly, bowing low, forgive me for disturbing you. But the council speaks of the human guard. They noticed. Your pause. Saratia straightened, her regal mask returning. Of course they did, she said coldly. They see everything. Whispers are spreading, the advisor continued. Some think he may be more than he seems. Others fear it is a sign from the old wars. Shall I silence them? Saradia shook her head slowly. No, let them whisper. The stars themselves whisper truths, and none can silence them. The advisor bowed again and left. Saradia remained at the window, staring out into the endless dark. But her mind was not on the stars anymore. It was on Earth. Meanwhile, in the human quarters of the palace, Ethan Hale sat at the edge of his bed, still wearing his uniform. He had been dismissed for the night, yet his thoughts refused to rest. All day, people had stared at him, humans and Thrillians alike. The Queen's strange reaction had not gone unnoticed. He could feel the weight of unseen eyes wherever he walked. He sighed and leaned forward, rubbing his face with both hands. Why me? He muttered. His roommate, another guard named Marcus, glanced up from polishing his weapon. You're asking the wrong question, Marcus said. The real question is, who does she think you are? Ethan frowned. I'm nobody. Marcus shrugged. Doesn't look that way to her? She froze. Ethan, queens don't freeze. Ethan didn't answer. He remembered the look in her eyes, shock. Yes, but something else too. A mix of sorrow and anger, as if he had reminded her of a wound that had never healed. Later that night, a soft knock came at the door. Ethan rose, surprised. Standing in the hall was one of the translators, a young woman who had been at the meeting. The Queen asked questions about you, she whispered quickly. Your name, your history, your family. She does not do that for guards. Ethan blinked. Why? The translator shook her head. I don't know. But listen, be careful. If you remind her of someone, it could be dangerous. Or it could mean something important. Either way, you are in the center of it now. Ethan thanked her, though the warning only deepened his unease. The next day, rumors grew louder. Within the alien court, nobles whispered that the human guard was not just a soldier. Some feared he was a spy. Others thought he carried some hidden destiny. The Queen said nothing, but her silence only fueled the fire. During the second round of talks, Ethan again stood in his quiet place by the wall. The diplomats spoke of trade routes and scientific exchanges, their words carefully measured. But Ethan's attention was drawn again and again to the Queen. Her gaze flickered toward him, just as it had before. Not openly, not enough for the council to see, but he felt it. The invisible pull of her eyes. When the meeting ended, something unexpected happened as the delegations prepared to leave. One of the Queen's messengers stepped forward. His voice rang clearly through the hall. By command of Her Majesty Saradia, the human guard named Ethan Hale is to attend her for a private inspection. The words fell heavy in the air. Humans exchanged glances. Some frowned in worry, others in suspicion. A soldier, singled out by the Queen herself. It was unheard of. Ethan's chest tightened. He wanted to protest, but discipline kept him silent, with a stiff nod. He followed the messenger as he walked through the winding corridors of the palace. His mind spun. Why him? What did she want? Was this about the resemblance people whispered about, or something deeper? At last, the messenger stopped before massive doors carved with glowing runes. The throne chamber, the messenger said. You will enter. Alone? The doors opened slowly, and Ethan stepped inside. The hall was vast, lit by streams of pale light that fell from high windows. At the far end, Queen Saradia sat upon her throne, silent and still, her golden eyes fixed on him as he approached, each step echoing loudly in the empty chamber. Ethan stopped a respectful distance away and bowed his head slightly. Your Majesty, he said. The Queen studied him for a long, quiet moment. Her gaze was sharp, searching. Finally, she spoke. You look like someone I once knew. Her voice was calm, but beneath it lay something Ethan could not yet name, pain, perhaps, or longing. Ethan stood tall, his confusion hidden behind discipline. I do not know what you mean. The Queen's eyes narrowed slightly. No, you do not, but you will. Her words hung heavy in the air, echoing through the silent chamber. And in that moment, Ethan understood one thing clearly, whatever this was them. The throne chamber was quiet, so quiet that Ethan could hear the soft hum of the glowing pillars that lined the walls. The air felt heavy, filled with something he could not name. Queen Saradia sat high on her throne, her posture perfect, her crown catching the pale light. She studied Ethan without speaking, her golden eyes sharp and searching. It was not the casual glance of a ruler looking at a guard. It was deeper, almost personal, as though she was trying to see into his very soul. Ethan kept his stance straight, his hands at his side, just as he had been trained, but inside, his chest felt tight. He was used to danger, used to pressure, but this was different. This was not the battlefield. This was something stranger, something that reached into a past he didn't understand. At last, the queen spoke. Her voice was calm, but her words carried weight. "You remind me of someone," she said. "Someone I once knew very well. Tell me, human, where do you come from?" Ethan blinked at the question. "Earth, your majesty." "Yes, I know that," she said softly. "But who are your people, your bloodline, your family's history?" The question caught him off guard. "My family, my parents were ordinary people. My father was a teacher. My mother worked in medicine. Nothing unusual." The queen tilted her head slightly. "And your grandparents, your ancestors?" Ethan hesitated. "I don't know much. My family never spoke much about the older generations. Records were lost during old wars on Earth. We never cared for long family histories." Her eyes narrowed. "Convenient." Ethan felt a spark of frustration, but forced his voice to remain calm. "With respect, your majesty, I don't see how my family matters. I'm only a guard, a soldier." For a long moment, silence filled the room again. The queen leaned back slightly in her throne, her gaze never leaving him. Then she raised one hand, and a servant approached, carrying a small object wrapped in dark cloth. The servant placed the object on a low pedestal in front of Ethan and stepped back. "Open it," the queen commanded. Ethan hesitated, then reached down. His fingers unwrapped the cloth carefully. Inside was an object unlike anything he had ever seen, a small crystal sphere, faintly glowing with shifting colors. Strange symbols swirled across its surface, appearing and disappearing like smoke. The moment Ethan touched it, a chill ran through him. The symbols seemed oddly familiar, though he had never seen them before. He frowned, confused, his heart beating faster. "What is this?" he asked quietly. The queen's eyes sharpened. "Do you recognize it?" Ethan shook his head. "I don't know, but it feels—" He paused, searching for the right word. "It feels familiar, like I've seen it in a dream." Saradia leaned forward slightly, her voice dropping lower. "That sphere belonged to someone I once trusted, long ago. Tell me, how can a human soldier recognize the marks of the Thrillian?" "Royal house," Ethan's eyes widened. "Royal house, yes," she said firmly. "The symbols of bloodlines, of legacies." Ethan shook his head quickly. "That's impossible. I don't know anything about this, I swear." The queen rose slowly from her throne. She walked down the steps toward him, each step graceful but heavy with power. When she stood only a few feet away, Ethan felt the full weight of her presence. "Impossible." She repeated softly, "Perhaps, or perhaps not. History has strange ways of hiding itself in the folds of time." Her golden eyes bore into him, unblinking. "You are no ordinary human. I will find out why." Ethan swallowed hard. He wanted to argue, wanted to insist again that he was just a soldier. But the memory of the strange familiarity when he touched the crystal sphere held his tongue. Deep inside, something about it had felt real. Too real. The queen circled him slowly, her gaze sharp. "Do you know what they call me?" she asked suddenly. Ethan shook his head. "They call me Saradia the Unbroken," she said. "I have survived betrayals, wars, and shadows. I do not believe in chance. If you stand here before me, looking like him, recognizing symbols you should not know, then there's a reason." Ethan frowned. "Him? Who do I look like?" The queen stopped walking. For a long moment she was silent. Then she said, her voice heavy with old pain, "A man who betrayed me. A man I once called my husband, Ethan's chest tightened. He had guessed she saw someone in him, but to hear it spoken aloud made it real. He searched for words but found none. The queen raised her chin, regaining her regal composure. Enough for now. You may go, but understand this: your presence here is no accident. I will uncover the truth. Human. Ethan bowed stiffly, his mind spinning, and left the chamber. The corridors of the palace seemed longer than ever as he walked back to the human quarters. His thoughts stormed with confusion. A queen from another world thought he looked like her ex-husband? That was absurd, impossible. And yet, the crystal sphere had felt familiar. That unsettled him more than anything. When he entered the quarters, Marcus was waiting for him, arms crossed. So, Marcus asked immediately, "What happened?" Ethan sank into a chair. She questioned me. About my family, about my bloodline. Marcus frowned. Why would she care about that? I don't know, Ethan admitted. But then she showed me some artifact. I shouldn't have understood it, but I did, somehow. Marcus's eyes widened. You recognize alien writing, Ethan. That doesn't make sense. Exactly. Ethan muttered, rubbing his temples. None of this makes sense. The room fell silent. Ethan could feel Marcus staring at him, but he couldn't meet his friend's eyes. His mind kept replaying the queen's words. You remind me of someone. A man who betrayed me. Who was this man? And why did Ethan, an ordinary human soldier, look like him? In the following days, the palace buzzed with rumors. Nobles whispered about the human guard who had been summoned alone by the queen. Some claimed he was a spy sent to uncover secrets. Others said he carried the blood of ancient aliens. The human delegation grew uneasy. Their leaders warned Ethan to stay quiet, to avoid drawing attention. But it was too late. The queen herself had already drawn attention to him. One night, unable to sleep, Ethan found himself staring at the stars from the palace balcony. The galaxy stretched out before him, endless and mysterious. He whispered to himself, "What are you hiding from me?" He didn't know if he was asking the stars, the queen, or his own blood. But one thing was clear: his life would never again be ordinary. The palace of Thrylia was alive with whispers. Nobles spoke in hidden corners. Guards traded rumors in hushed tones, and servants carried tales from one hall to another. All the whispers carried one name: Ethan Hale, the human guard who looked like the queen's exiled husband, the soldier who had touched a royal artifact and recognized its symbols, the man who should have been ordinary, but was clearly not. Ethan felt the eyes on him wherever he walked. Alien guards glanced at him with suspicion, and Thrylian nobles studied him as if he carried a secret. Even the human delegation looked uneasy, though none dared speak openly. For Ethan, every step in the palace felt heavier than the last. He was a soldier used to discipline, used to danger, but this was different. This was not an enemy he could fight with a weapon. This was mystery, shadow, and history reaching out to him. Meanwhile, Queen Saradia sat in her private council chamber. Her advisors gathered around her. A large table stretched before them, covered in glowing screens and ancient records. The queen's expression was calm, but her golden eyes were sharp, burning with determination. One of her advisors, a tall figure with silver lines across his skin, bowed deeply. Your Majesty, we searched the royal archives as you commanded. There are records fragmented, but clear enough. After Prince Valer's exile, there were sightings. He was last seen traveling near the Outer Rim, toward a system not claimed by our kind. Saradia's voice was quiet but firm. Which system? The advisor pressed a command. A map appeared above the table, stars glowing in a spiral. A section lit up, and among them, one small blue planet, Earth. The advisor said. The room grew still. The words seemed to hang in the air like a blade. Another advisor, older and more cautious, spoke quickly. Majesty, it may be only rumor. The records are centuries old, and humans are a young race, barely reaching the stars. They could. Saradia interrupted sharply. Blood travels, blood hides. If Valer fell to that world, if he left behind anything of himself. Her gaze hardened. Then it is not chance that Ethan Hale stands before us now. The council fell silent. None dared to challenge her words. That evening, as Ethan rested in his quarters, the Queen's messenger arrived again. The Queen summons you, the messenger said. Ethan sighed but followed. He had no choice. He was led into a smaller chamber. This time, not the grand throne room. The space was quiet, lit by soft blue flames. The walls lined with shelves of ancient records. It felt more like a scholar's hall than a royal chamber. Queen Saradia stood waiting, her hands clasped behind her back. Sit, she commanded. Motioning to a chair across from her, Ethan obeyed. Though he remained tense, the Queen studied him for a long moment before speaking. You know, do you not, that you are not like the others of your kind? Ethan frowned. I don't know what you mean. You touched an artifact of my people and felt familiarity. You look like a man who lived long before you were born. And now, the archives tell me what I already suspected. She leaned closer. You carry his blood. Ethan's stomach tightened. Who's Prince Valor? She said softly. The name sharp like a blade. The man who was once my husband. The man who betrayed me. Ethan shook his head quickly. That's impossible. I'm human. I was born on Earth. My parents were human. My whole family. Your parents told you what they knew. Saradia interrupted. But blood does not ask permission before it passes through generations. If Valor walked upon your world, if he left children behind, then his line could live among you, hidden, waiting. Ethan felt cold. He wanted to deny it, wanted to laugh at the absurdity of it, but deep inside, he remembered the crystal sphere, the strange symbols he had recognized. He remembered the Queen's reaction when she saw him. What does it mean? He asked finally, his voice low. It means, Saradia said, that you are connected to my past, a past filled with betrayal, and that connection could change the future of both our peoples. Ethan sat back, stunned into silence. The news did not remain hidden for long. Within days, the Thrillian court was alive with conflict. Some nobles demanded Ethan be cast out at once, claiming he was a reminder of treachery, a living insult to their queen. Others argued the opposite. If the blood of Thrillia flows in him, they said, then he is a bridge between us and humanity. He could unite our peoples. The arguments grew heated, voices rising in the council halls. Among the humans, tension spread as well. Diplomats, worried that Ethan's connection to the Queen's past might ruin the fragile talks. Some whispered that perhaps he should be sent back to Earth immediately. Others believed he might be their greatest chance for trust. Ethan found himself trapped in the middle, unwanted by both sides yet bound to both. Wherever he walked, eyes followed, some with anger, some with fear, some with hope. One night, unable to sleep, Ethan walked through the quiet halls alone. His footsteps echoed softly against the polished floors. He found himself before a window that looked out upon the stars. For the first time, he let the question form fully in his mind. Who am I? He had always thought of himself as a soldier, a man with simple duties, simple loyalties. But now the weight of history pressed on him. Was he only Ethan Hale, human guard? Or was he also something else, something tied to a legacy of betrayal and power? Behind him, a voice spoke. You are troubled. Ethan turned. Queen Saradia stood there, her robes flowing softly in the dim light. For once, her face was not cold or stern. There was something almost human in her expression, tired, thoughtful. Ethan bowed his head slightly. I don't understand any of this. I'm not him. I'm not your husband. I'm not a prince. I'm not anyone important. Saradia stepped closer, her eyes studying him. No, you are not him. But his shadow lingers in you, and shadows can be dangerous. Ethan met her gaze firmly. Then tell me what you want from me. Do you want me gone? Do you want me punished for something I didn't do? The Queen was silent for a long moment. Then she said, I do not know what I want from you, but I know this: you may be the key to something greater than either of us, and for that, I cannot let you go. Her words struck Ethan like a weight. He realized then that he was not free. He was no longer just a guard. He was a symbol whether he wanted it or not. In the days that followed, Factions formed more clearly. Some of the Queen's counselors pressed her to banish Ethan before his presence tore the court apart. Others urged her to protect him, to claim him as proof of destiny. Ethan walked through this storm of whispers, feeling like a man caught between two worlds. And deep inside, one thought haunted him. If he truly carried the blood of this prince, Valor, then what did that mean for his future? What if he was not just a soldier? What if he was something more? The Thrillian Palace was no longer a place of peace. Though the hall still glowed with blue light and the banners still hung proudly, the air carried tension that could not be hidden. Arguments filled the council chambers. Whispers filled the corridors, and at the center of it all stood Ethan Hale, a human soldier who never wished for any of this. The rumors had spread too far to stop. Everyone now knew that Ethan might carry the blood of Prince Valor, the man who had once betrayed Queen Saradia. Some saw Ethan as a threat, a shadow of an old enemy. Others saw him as a chance for something new, a bridge between humans and Thrillians. Ethan himself felt trapped. He had no control over what people believed. All he knew was the truth of his own heart. He was not Valor. He was not a prince. He was not a traitor. He was just Ethan Hale, a guard who wanted to do his duty. But the galaxy no longer saw him that way. In the Queen's council chamber, voices clashed like swords. He must be removed. One noble shouted, his silver-lined face red with anger. His presence insults the throne. He is a danger to your majesty. Another voice countered sharply. No, if he carries Thrillian blood, he is proof that our kind and theirs can be one. He may be the key to an alliance stronger than any treaty. The arguments grew louder, until Queen Saradia raised her hand. Silence fell at once. Her golden eyes swept over the council. Calm but unyielding, I will decide what must be done, she said firmly. Later that night, when the council had dispersed, Saradia sat alone in her private chamber. The stars beyond the window looked endless, yet her gaze was fixed inward. Memories of Valor pressed at her mind, his smile, his betrayal, his fall, and now Ethan, who carried his face, yet spoke with a different voice. For the first time in years, she felt uncertain. Ethan, too, was restless. He sat in his quarters, staring at his hands. He thought of his parents, of his simple life on Earth. He thought of the artifact, the strange symbols that had felt familiar. He thought of the Queen's eyes when she looked at him, not just with anger, but with sorrow. Marcus, his fellow guard, finally spoke. You need to decide what you're going to do, Ethan. You can't just stand still and let them decide for you. Ethan looked up sharply. What choice do I have? I can't change who I look like. I can't change what blood runs in me. Marcus leaned forward. Maybe not, but you can decide how you stand. You can decide what you say. Sometimes that's more important than blood. The words struck Ethan deeply. He realized then that Marcus was right. He couldn't escape this situation, but he could choose how to face it. The decision came the next morning. A great assembly was called, gathering both the Thrillian nobles and the human delegation. The Queen herself sat upon her throne, her crown gleaming, her eyes calm but watchful. Ethan was summoned to stand before them all. The hall was crowded, the tension heavy. Every gaze burned into him. Queen Saradia's voice rang clear across the chamber. This human stands before us, carrying a face from my past. Some of you say he is a threat. Some of you say he is a chance for the future. Today, he will speak for himself. The hall grew silent. Ethan's heart pounded, but he stepped forward. He looked at the faces around him, alien and human alike, and then at the Queen. His voice was steady, though his chest was tight. I'm Ethan Hale, a human, a soldier. I don't know if what you say is true. I don't know if my blood carries anything from this Prince Valor. But I do know this: I am not him. I'm not his shadow. I am not his betrayal. I am only me. The hall stirred, whispers rising, but Ethan raised his voice, stronger now. I cannot choose my face. I cannot choose what blood flows in me. But I can choose my actions. And I will not live as the echo of a man I never knew. I will live as Ethan Hale, and nothing else. His words hung in the air, clear and sharp. The whispers faded. Even the nobles fell silent. Queen Saradia studied him for a long moment, her golden eyes unreadable. Then she rose slowly from her throne and stepped forward. "You speak with the voice of a human," she said softly, "not with the voice of Valor. You remind me of him, yes, but you are not him, and perhaps that is what I needed to see." She turned, her voice rising with command. "Hear me, counsel. This human is under my protection. He will not be cast out. He will not be punished for another's sins. Instead, he will stand as proof that the past does not rule the future. Humanity and Thrillia can walk forward together." The hall echoed with her words. Some nobles bowed their heads, accepting her command. Others looked uneasy but dared not defy her. Ethan stood frozen, stunned by what had just happened. After the assembly, the human delegation approached him with relief and admiration. Some clapped him on the shoulder, others simply nodded with respect. Marcus grinned and whispered, "Told you. Sometimes words matter more than blood." Ethan gave a faint smile, though his heart still felt heavy. He had spoken the truth, but he knew the journey was not over. He was still a symbol, still a reminder of something greater than himself. But at least now, he was a symbol on his own. Terms later, as the stars rose over the palace, Queen Saradia stood alone on her balcony. She felt the cool air brush against her skin as she thought of all that had happened. Ethan's words echoed in her mind. "I am only me." For so long, she had lived under the shadow of betrayal, carrying the weight of the past. But now, a human soldier had reminded her that the future was not chained to old wounds behind her. Ethan approached quietly. "Your Majesty," he said. She turned, her eyes softer now than ever before. "Ethan Hale," she replied. For a moment, they simply looked at one another, an alien queen and a human guard. "Bound not by blood, but by choice, you have given me something rare," Saradia said quietly. "You have given me reason to believe again." Ethan nodded. "And you've shown me that sometimes the past doesn't have to decide who we are." The queen gave a faint smile, a smile touched with both sorrow and hope. Then she turned back to the stars, and in that silent moment, both of them understood. The galaxy was wide. The past was heavy, but the future was theirs to shape together.